Welcome to the Practice Leader Podcast, brought to you by Ascent, a show for medical practice administrators who feel stuck in the daily chaos and want to lead with intention. I'm Zed Williamson, founder and CEO of Physician Growth Accelerator.
And I'm Paul Richards, president of Ascent and director of otolaryngology at the University of Utah School of Medicine. Every week, we explore what high-performing leaders are doing in real time, so you can stop reacting and start leading with purpose, strategy, and results.
It's easy to be busy every single day. Seems like nothing ends. You're always starting new things. The pile doesn't get smaller. And we are doing this busyness surrounded by the people that we work with and maybe the people at home when we're busy. But how easy is it to actually forget the importance of that connection with people, when in reality, people really matter? And that's why we're speaking with our guest today, Lieutenant Colonel Guvna McGowan, who is the upcoming keynote speaker for the Ascent Conference. Bo, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Thanks, Zed. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here, coming to you from Macon, Georgia, down in the land of the Allman Brothers and Otis Redding. What a pleasure and what a privilege.
So, you are clearly very passionate about just that 3-word statement, people really matter. Where does that come from? Why?
I found the highest form of service is serving others. In fact, there's a famous verse that says, "Make my joy complete. In all things, consider others more important than yourself and humble yourself." And I have found, although I've been very, very blessed and fortunate in my life, the greatest joy comes from when I help others. And I was gifted with the ability to fly airplanes, to fly fighters, but also gifted with the ability to connect with people. And that's what it came from. My father instilled it to me when I was an 8-year-old boy riding on the back of a mule, believe it or not. So that's where it originated. And there's no greater joy than that for me, Zed.
And so when there's practice administrators are going to be at the conference and they're going to go to the talks and they're going to go to the keynote speech. And the thing is you're going to be able to bring them value, as we all should be able to pull value from anybody speaking to us. But what have you witnessed from a feedback standpoint, or what people do differently, or what people are surprised by? What do people really take away from this mindset?
They take away that they matter, and that every moment that they spend thinking about others is a moment well spent. And the greatest joy in their lives can be from becoming the greatest professional that they can be and letting that totally engulf every interaction they have at the workplace. And it'll spill over from the family or into the family if you don't have that at the present time. But every moment spent in the profession that they've chosen, in this case, it's with Ascent, of administrating and preparing, is a moment well spent because they are helping people who need help. And that's what they should take away. And I'm just going to ask them at the end of the day what was asked of me when I was a fighter pilot active, and that was to fly like a champion.
So it's interesting path. So when I think of, and you can definitely correct any kind of bias or assumption I have as being inaccurate, but when I think about fighter pilot, you are so focused on what you can control in the moment, singularly with you, and to come out of that and to spend your time, career, energy, obviously you have a lot of it because you're so passionate about the fact that people matter. Was there a moment that really drove that in from your past?
Well, I did have a defining moment, but before that, I had the foundation built in me from my father and from my friends around me. And also when I first got into the Air Force and I went to pilot training, and I was blessed enough to earn a single-seat fighter, the first thing I learned when I went to fighter training was, although that's a single-seat airplane, we never fly solo. There's always a wingman initially, and then a wingman or a wingmam to the right or to the left of me that has my back, because there's a blind spot back there that I have, and I can't see that no matter which way I turn, but my wingman can see it, or my wingman can see it, and I can see theirs. And together we're better. Two are better than one. But the defining moment for me when I viscerally experienced it was in April 4th, 1991. I had the rare experience of ejecting from an F-16 over the Okefenokee Swamp. And I was so deep in the swamp that it took a team of professionals to get me out of there, a 6-hour rescue to get me out of a swamp. That's when it viscerally came true to me. I was going like, wow, there are so many other factors, meaning so many other people who've committed themselves to these vocations that you never see, but when they're needed, they're already in place. And if somebody had thought of me and thought of this before they ever knew me or this ever happened. And then I realized it's what you do when nobody's looking. And when nobody's looking and you're preparing yourself for your calling on your life, it makes you the most effective because you're present when you're preparing and then you're present when you're in action. So that's my visceral moment was that crash, April 4th, 1991, which, by the way, we're going to talk about at the conference.
I imagine that would be a memorable experience.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to imagine, my brother.
So I'm sitting here thinking like, oh boy, I've got work to do. I'm like listening to you. I'm like, I want to get there. I want to be thoughtful of people a little more. I think where I've found myself, and probably others can relate, hopefully not many, but I'm sure others do feel this. It's like, you're just so busy. You're just scrambling from one task to the next. You're trying to get things out. So sometimes you get to work and you shut your door. You don't even want to talk to anybody. You just got to get the work done. And you lose that connection. And sometimes it's even lonely at top. Sometimes being, the administrator, it's a little lonely and you kind of have distance. So I guess my question is, how can I break that habit, or how can I get back to appreciating people a little more? What are some ways I can do that?
Well, I would tell you that stillness is the key, which is from a book I've read by Ryan Holiday, the leading American Stoic. But stillness, take time to slow yourself down at the beginning of each day, before your feet even hit the floor from the bed, and go, today, I'm going to care for people. People come first. Mission comes always, and people come always, but people come first. So the first thing is take a stillness and commit yourself to it. And then remind yourself throughout the day when you're getting busier and busier and have less time and less time for people to stop, lean back in your chair for a moment and go, I'm doing this for someone, not for something, for someone. And I need to be present in the immediate moment to ensure that I give my best effort. And by the way, you'll know you're doing that, Paul, when things in your life begin with the letter BE or have the letter BE in it, because we're human beings. So you're being there for people. And when it's good for them, it's beneficial, BE. Okay? And if you're improving, you're becoming, BE. These are all parts of the state of being that I was telling you about. And that's, by the way, flying fighters, that's what it's all about. There is no past. There is no future. There's just now. This moment. Let's win this moment. We had in the Air Force in flying F-16s, when we fly low level, we had what we called next nearest threat, next nearest threat, next nearest threat. So if we don't take care of the nearest threat, we also call it near rocks, far rocks when we flew low level. We don't need to worry about the far rocks if we're going to hit the near rocks. Yep. So think to yourself that I'm too busy. I'm getting too busy. I've got too much to be done. I don't need to be bothered. And there are moments when that's going to happen. But when you find yourself always in that urgent mode, everything has to be done. Everything has to be done. Everything has to be done. Then you're becoming a human doing. Sit back and go, wait a minute. Wait a second. What is important and urgent? And then tackle that and then go, whom did I do that for? And then you'll know you're making progress. That's an actionable step for you. Just the easiest things, lean back in your chair and take a moment and just reflect. Stillness. That's what I offer to you.
That's great. The whom am I doing this for is really powerful, because that gets lost, right? The most medial task, what our brain wants to do is call it this task that's in my way to do something else. But in reality, that task is for someone. And at some level, some connection point down the road, even if you think it's for yourself to do something for someone else. That's really powerful. I think the challenge where it's easy for our mind to go is in that binary choice where I'm either busy or I'm focusing on people. Like Paul, what you said, it's like our brains are going to, it can only be one of the two. It can't be both. When in what I'm hearing you say, Bo, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they are melded together. It's not busyness and people. It's even if you're busy for people. And if you realize that, it slows you down.
And when you realize that the task is very, very time consuming, you may need to say, I need a moment or I need some time to work on this, because that's the best way that you can help them.
Mm.
Yeah.
You understand? There's no guilt in this. There's just this,
right.
There's just this idea, like you said, that we go back and we go, this is for someone, but to give my best, to give my best effort, I need total concentration, total focus right here. Because what I'm working at is, let's just say, is behemoth, BE, okay, and really demanding on me. So to give my best right now, I do need that time. But if everything is that way, then you're probably drifting. You have a little mission drift. Okay, makes sense.
And it's also it's got to be belief in the mission too, right? Like what you just kind of made me think through. I was calling up some memories, and when I first started this business, this is 15 years ago, and I remember there'd be time I was putting so much hours, so busy, and my older son at the time, he was I guess 7, and he asked to play catch, and I was so exhausted. I was like, "Look, buddy, maybe tomorrow. I'm really tired." And I heard those words come out of my mouth, and so then you're reflecting. You're like, "Wait a second, what am I doing?" But that was the instant response where if a client had called me in that moment and asked if I could get on a call, I would have made it happen. Right. So in that moment, it's what's the reflection of the belief behind the activity and the who, where we assume one thing is always there. So then we got to focus on the thing that we think only has minimal time, where now in the same scenario, there's no way in HE double hockey sticks, as my mom would say, that I would make that decision at all. And so it has to do with belief, right?
Right. And which is a BE word, by the way. All right. So quick support of that statement for you, Zed. When Admiral Stockdale passed away, they showed his funeral on C-SPAN. And his Admiral Stockdale, Medal of Honor recipient, longest held POW in Vietnam, tortured 7 years in solitary confinement. When his son got up to speak at his funeral, his son said, "You remember him as a hero, as a fighter pilot, as a prisoner of war, as an inspirer of people. I remember him as a daddy who, when he came home from Vietnam, torn and tattered, and spent his year at Stanford, every chance he got, he would throw the baseball with me." And he goes, "You have to understand this. I wasn't a good baseball player. I was a daisy picker in right field. But my dad, the guy to all of you who is this war hero, was just that time my daddy." That's what you're talking about, Zed, right? Because Stockdale had a belief that he was this little boy's father. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. That's great. So if there's someone listening to this and they, there's not, I could be wrong, but I doubt anyone's listening going, this is all a load. What are they talking about? Right. So it's easy to agree with an idea, and then the difference in taking action. And I love the first thing you said to Paul about, whom am I doing this for, and using stillness. What else, maybe even going farther up the ladder, or I guess farther into, maybe farther down. What are some other ways for someone to start creating this belief that will actually drive the habit?
Wow, that's an in-depth question for a publicly educated kid from the Deep South. Okay, Some other, I'll just open you up to a few of the things that I find that I've committed my life to ensure that I get in the zone. One is the openness to understand that I could be and quite possibly am wrong. And that when someone near me who loves me or cares about me or works closely with me gives me feedback that's contrary to what I thought, it is probably meant to help me. So I want to be in a receiving mode for help from others. So that's one thing you can do is go, I'm in the receiving mode, and to receive feedback with, they have my best interests at heart. They have my best interests. I remember taking debriefs. I mean, here I am, single seat fighter pilot in a squadron of fighter pilots, and we go into a debriefing room, and the flight lead stands up at the front, and he turns to me, in this case, and he says, Bo, you're not getting it done. And this is exactly what you're not doing. You say this jet is a long bomber, which means that you drop the bomb with the pipper on the target, but the bomb goes past the target. And then he takes the film and he starts it and slows it down frame by frame. And the jet is not a long bomber. I'm late on the pickle button. I'm the long bomber. And then the next thing he goes into is not, you got to get better at long bombing. You've got to improve this. He goes, and this is how you correct that. And then in front of those other 3 fighter pilots in that room, he gives me the procedures that I have to go through to make myself better. He didn't talk about me being a bad bomber. He said, your bad bombing, long bombing, is not who you are, it's what you're doing. And he gave me the steps to correct it. So one way to take it to the next level is to be ready for critique and to have a trust, because you've created relationships that people have your best interests in heart. And that when you give others feedback, take the lens of how they see it and offer it to them in a lingo that they're going to be willing to receive. That's built from trust, and trust comes out of relationship. Trust doesn't come before relationship, but it comes afterwards. But it's from this idea that I have, or you have, my best interest in heart. So I'm going to listen, and it may sting, and it won't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit in stillness and I think about it, I go, this is for my best. This is for my best. B-E. This is for my best. So I get there. So that's another way to take it up another level, to be willing to receive critique, and also have.
It's really powerful. You know, I like this concept that if something isn't life-threatening, it can only be ego-threatening. But we tend to treat non-life-threatening things as if they are. And I love that. I love that you spoke to both sides of it, because you have to be accountable for how you present something, as the person needs to be accountable for how they receive it. It's not up to just one or the other.
Yes. Yeah. It's Mary Parker Fourier, the great social behavior scientist from the 1920s, called that the law of circular response. The law of circular response. Most communication models the older ones are send, receive, send, receive.
Yep.
This is a circular. I give you a little feedback, and the way you respond with your facial features or your body language changes how I send you the next message, which changes how you send me back a message. And this thing just goes in a circle, but it's not a linear circle. It's taking place spatially in this, because there's pressures that come in, much like the OODA loop that you've heard so much about from John Boyd, the fighter pilot who changed a lot of war. Everybody thinks that's linear, but it's not. These relationships are dynamic. They are dynamic. And so it's important, but that's a way that I say, just be ready and willing. But the key, Zed, Paul, is this phrase: when it stings or when it's great, you always go back to this phrase: this is meant to help me. This is meant to help me. So anyway.
Well, Bo, I know I would probably enjoy a 5-hour conversation with you. And I'm really excited for the keynote talk at the Ascent Conference. And for listeners, just, his keynote alone is reason for you to go if you haven't already set your plans. So, Bo, I really appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you coming to the conference. I'm excited for the group of people to be able to walk away with this wisdom. I love the mindset. I love that it was brought forth from your father. And so it is deep rooted, and that just puts you in a position to help other people. And I think that's fantastic.
Fantastic. Thanks, Zed. Thanks, Paul.
Looking forward to having you at the conference. Thanks so much.
You bet. It's a pleasure and a privilege. And to all my Ascent wingmen and wingmans now, listen, we're a formation, and it's going to be a pleasure to fly with you guys. Come and girls, so come ready. And for the time we have together, let's just have a lot of fun. Okay?
Excellent. Thanks for listening to the Practice Leader Podcast. If you're feeling the weight of challenges in your practice, know this. The problems you're struggling with today don't have to remain problems. There is a path forward, and you're not walking it alone.
Each week, we'll be here with insights, ideas, and real-world conversations to help you move forward from chaos to clarity.
See you next week.